It's a 2023-2024 Knicks preview next on The Dime.
You are now listening to The Dime with Josh and Quab, your go-to NBA podcast. Subscribe on Apple, follow on Spotify, and be sure to hit up the YouTube channel for video content. And now your hosts, Josh and Quab.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Dime. Today, we are discussing whether or not the New York Knicks can take the next step and be contenders in the Eastern Conference with no other than the host of Gold School Retro NBA. He is a Knick Twitter ally of mine. Everybody, please welcome to The Dime for the first time, Ariel DeJesus. Ariel.
What's going on, y'all? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming
basically,
on,
if you guys don't know me, I'm Ariel Gold School Retro. I do talk about players from the past, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. Away from my Knick fandom, that's basically my bread and butter right there.
Old school, baby. You know the history of the game. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
You appreciate the Hoyas. Look at the old Iverson jersey. I love it, baby.
Sir.
95, 96,
fire.
I
love
it, man.
Georgetown, man. I love Iverson.
I love it, man. Iverson did it. Big East, man. Big East basketball.
The best
Nothing
at
better.
that time.
Nothing better, man. All right, so let's get this show started by taking a stroll down NBA Twitter.
Did you just? I can't believe. Yes, you really tweeted that out. NBA Twitter, you are undefeated.
This is where I take 3 tweets on my timeline. I present them to my guest, and we discuss them. First tweet, I wanted to bring this to your attention because I saw you going at this person. We're going to bring it to the show. It's from Toogie the Love at Cool Kid Fresco, and he said, I love Brunson, but we got lucky getting him. With the OE pick essentially going to waste, I am disappointed we didn't get Haliburton, who was right there. Not only is he a baller, he's a good kid. He is easily the franchise point guard we've been starving for decades. Ariel, I think you and I are on the same page here. I would love for you to respond to this tweet because, to me, it's really frustrating when people just don't appreciate what we have.
And that's the main problem with basically with like Knicks Twitter. I see a lot of people. It's not even like a Knick, because I know a lot of Knick fans. I'm cool with a lot of season ticket holders. A lot of them don't even have social medias for these reasons.
Yeah.
But it's just they don't appreciate what's in front of them, and it's a part of you thinking the grass is greener on the other side, and especially when you ain't worried about what your own grass. And basically, like Brunson has proven what he did with Dallas before he even came over here, that he was a dog, that he could take a team to the next level, and then he did it with Dallas when Luka went out. You see what he did over there, almost took him to an NBA Finals. A lot of people forget that. And if you say it's luck that the Knicks got Jalen Brunson, you could say that about a lot of teams. It's lucky that the Nuggets hit on the second round with Jokic. I mean, the NBA is mixed with a lot of luck, with teams that win finals because the other team they're playing, their best player goes down. Stuff happens that way. And listen, I'm a Knicks fan. I've been suffering for a very long time. So for us to sit here and cry that we got a guy like Jalen Brunson, who took us as far as he did. Granted, he didn't do it all alone, but he was one of the main reasons why we even got that far, to basically becoming one game, one possession away from going to Game 7 and possibly a Eastern Conference Finals, in 1 year. So if you look at the comparison, you compare, yes, Haliburton is a very good player, is a all-star caliber point guard. I think he's phenomenal. I wanted him in the draft instead of Obi. But I'm not going to cry over spoiled milk. We ended up with Jalen Brunson, who essentially is only a few years older, to me, is a better player. And people talk about the defensive, where he's not light years ahead of Jalen Brunson. If you look at the numbers, the people say Haliburton is like greatest defender. He is a good defender, don't get me wrong, but he's not light years in front of Jalen Brunson on that aspect either. And if I had a choice today, right now, I'm taking Brunson, a proven guy at the NBA level. Haliburton hasn't proven anything. His team got better when they traded him.
Facts.
So Jalen Brunson's team got worse when they let him go. So you got to look at the comparisons. To me, it's not comparable.
Yeah, I don't think it's comparable either in the sense where it's like, just be happy with what you have, right? Even if you think Haliburton might be a little better than Jalen Brunson, we can disagree on that. But the fact that the Knicks have acquired Jalen Brunson and he immediately took the team as the leader to the second round of the playoffs, a couple of games away from Eastern Conference Finals berth, just be happy with that. Like, why are you looking back on it, like, wishing that you had Tyrese Haliburton, who, like you said, hasn't accomplished anything that Jalen Brunson accomplished? Like, nothing. And they're on the same USA team, and Jalen Brunson starts. So, Eric Spoelstra, the best coach in the NBA, obviously thinks that highly of Brunson. be happy with what you have, Knicks fans. We're good. We're fine moving forward. Jalen Brunson is going to be an all-star at some point in his Knicks tenure. He wasn't one last year, but he's going to be one. Maybe Haliburton will be one too, but relax. We are good. We have one of the best. I mean, already he's going to, in my mind, he's going to be one of the best point guards in franchise history. I'm not saying he's going to be Walt. I'm not saying he's going to be the best, but he's the best point guard we've had in a really, really, really long time.
Just the Paul Marbury, man.
Yeah, just enjoy it. And even Marbury was just talented. I mean, Marbury, it didn't translate to W, so just enjoy it. I don't understand why people have a hard time enjoying things. And this is just like Knicks fans, too, because Brooklyn, you guys don't have this problem, right?
I just think Knicks fans just have wandering eyes when it comes to players. So you guys always – it sounds like every time you're on Twitter, you're just worried about the next player, like, oh, we can get this guy instead of appreciating what you have. You guys both stated, like, Brunson should have been an all-star. Like, it just came to, like, numbers or whatever, but Brunson had an all-star caliber season. He was one of the main reasons you guys won so many games and essentially turned the corner this year. So you guys, he should be appreciated. This is, like, these arguments are, like, nonsensical, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. Let's move on to the second tweet. It comes from Johnny Sauce at @real_JPIII. And he says, the logic is if Julius Randle doesn't perform well, the Knicks don't do well. Jalen Brunson is a good player, but the Knicks go as far as Randle takes them, not the other way around. Ariel, do you think the Knicks go as far as Julius Randle takes them?
I think he can and will take them to the next level. And a lot of people always use the whole, well, he doesn't show up in the playoffs thing. And you see what I always talk to people about when I debate them with this is that you got to add context into the conversation. You look at that roster that COVID year. That roster, that COVID year, overachieved. I mean, we were essentially depending on, older, Derrick Rose to save us because it was easy to just double, triple team Randle, get the ball out of his hands, and guys couldn't step up for him. And you could say that about a lot of people in their NBA careers early on, especially in the playoffs, because you got to remember it has to be a team. It has to be a team thing, especially when it comes down to playoff time, because they're going to key in on your best players, and he was the best player at that time. So it was easy to scheme that roster. We had Elfrid Payton running point guard. We had no center. We had Nerlens Noel out running the 5. So you essentially look at that roster. It was set up to fail in the playoffs from the beginning, even though it was a fun little run. And then, unfortunately, this year, you see what the MVP, the All-NBA caliber season he had, making an All-NBA team, making an All-Star team again, especially bouncing back from last year. It just goes to show you how hard the guy works to get better. He checked his mental health. I think if we had a healthy Julius Randle in the playoffs last year, I think you would have saw a different version of him. He wasn't totally bad as people made him seem to be, because he did help us win a couple of games, especially against Cleveland and one game against Miami. And I just feel like this year, with the healthy Julius Randle, I think he can and will help Jalen Brunson, and it will take us to the next level.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that this team goes as far as Julius takes them, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, yeah, they've been to the playoffs twice with him, and they lost twice. But like you said, when you add context to COVID year, they really weren't that great of a team to begin with. In the second time around, Julius was hurt. A lot of people don't want to give him that excuse or give him that out, and I understand that because everybody plays hurt. But, it is what it is. I think Julius is someone who Knicks fans are going to appreciate once he's gone. It's kind of like the Patrick Ewing thing, No one really appreciated Ewing when he was here. And then once he bounced, everyone was like, oh, we wish we would have appreciated him more while he was here. Not saying he's as good as Patrick Ewing, but I think they have kind of the same symbiotic relationship with the fans. So is it going to be the Knicks go as far as Julius takes them? Maybe, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he can take them pretty far along with Jalen Brunson. I don't think it's just single-handedly Julius doing it. All right, final tweet comes from Ed at equint77. He says, Knicks need to move on from Tibbs. His prehistoric offense isn't doing shit. He's still fighting the wheel. Trading Obi for scraps, I'm too old for this. Ed is not a Tibbs fan. He's mad that Obi's gone. What do you got to say to Ed, Ariel?
I just think that Knicks fans, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is no shade on Obi Toppin. I was a believer in him for a long time, until basically I had to change my mind. The same thing I did with Cam Reddish when he first came along. The bottom line is he's not that good. I mean, he's just a fringe role player. Does maybe one or two things okay, other than leaking out and standing in the corner, maybe hitting a few open threes. What else does he add to the realm of this team? I mean, he was kind of the weakest link if you look at it, especially on the bench. And for a guy to play 15 minutes, you can get that from anybody else, a Nathan Knight, Isaiah Roby. You can get that from somebody else. He's playing behind an All-NBA player. He's already at 3 years in the NBA. He hasn't improved much. He's played 4 years in college, and people will use the college. Well, he dominated in college. No, he didn't. Nobody knew who Obi Toppin was until the last year in Dayton when he took off, and then he was playing a bunch against a 19-year-olds and in a weaker conference, and he was just bullying them. At the NBA level, it's different. College and NBA is two different things. He's not strong enough to get to the cup. He doesn't know how to put the ball on the floor. Doesn't do it often. Does it maybe once in a blue moon. But for a guy his size and his skill set, he should be putting the ball on the floor and taking it to the hole a lot more than meandering and settling for threes. People say, well, Tibbs makes him stand in the corner. Listen, I watched the games 4, 5, 6 times, sometimes just to see things I didn't miss. And I've constantly seen Obi Toppin getting teammates have to tell him where he needs to be at on offense and defense. Constantly blows rotations. And you hear Tibbs yell at him at least 5 or 6 times a game, yelling at him, telling him to get out the corner. So ultimately it got to be the indicative of how much Obi wants to improve his game. And listen, when he goes to Indiana, he's got Jarris Walker, to me, who's a better all-around player than him, who actually might start in front of him. So ultimately, I think moving on from Obi, you take care of your CAA guy, you put him in a situation where they can actually have the time to develop, maybe and showcase him. But it's a very high, unlikely chance that he's going to be like this next Connie Hawkins that Knicks fans that think he's in the making of being. And the thing with Tibbs is one of the most winningest coaches we have, one of the winningest coaches in history. And he gets the most praise and respect from Greg Popovich. Said that one thing the Knicks didn't miss on was hiring Tibbs. And that's a legendary coach saying that in himself. Yes, he's not perfect. And I think even Alejandro said so when he was on Knicks Fan TV, he said the same thing where it's like you see the coaches that we had in the past. They were no good. You get a guy like Tibbs who gives you some of the best seasons you've had in 24 years, and you essentially want to move on from the guy already?
No sense.
Come on.
No sense.
It makes no sense, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I have my critiques with Tibbs as well, man, and the offense being one of them, which is addressed in this tweet, and I think that's fair. And I think you have talked about it on Twitter. I've talked about it on Twitter. Like, I've been critical of Tibbs. I'm sure you have as well. And there are a lot of issues that I have with the way that the offense runs sometimes. But at the same time, like, two things can be true. One thing being that the offense can get stale and the offense needs a little kick in the ass sometimes. And the other thing being that we should be freaking happy that Tibbs is our head coach. And it doesn't make me a company man to say that. It makes me a freaking Knicks fan that has seen bad basketball for 2 decades. And I'm happy that the Knicks are good again. And a large part of it is because of Tom Thibodeau and him bringing a winning culture over to the Knicks. It's not a bad thing. As far as Obi goes, I agree with you, man. I did a whole reaction video to the trade. You can see it on the Dime's YouTube page if you're curious. And at the end of the day, like, he's just a nice player. He's cool. He's a cool bench player. He's a cool rotation player. Like, that's really all it is. I mean, he doesn't have any type of bag where you can give him the ball and he can, like, make something out of nothing or be an isolation scorer or go-to scorer. A lot of Obi fans will point to, like, the 20 points per game that he scores as a starter, not realizing that that's all because the defenses weren't focused on him. And it's, him getting things off the ball and running in the full court, which is fine, but when you get to the level of a Jalen Brunson or a Julius Randle, which you Obi fans think he is, defenses are going to start game planning against him. And once that happens, you're not going to see those numbers that you've seen, when he starts. So I agree with you. We're in lockstep here, which is a big reason why you're on the show, because you make a lot of sense.
Can I add one more context to that, if you're not done yet?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing. The thing with Obi, too, when they bring up that whole, when he started, they got to realize, too, when he started, it was the 2 times that it happened. It was at the back end of the year when teams were playing their bench guys, their G leaguers, and people that weren't even a part of the rotation. So you got to remember, like, going up against actual starting fives and going up against backup guys or guys that didn't basically see any big time during the regular season from other teams, that's a small sample size that you can't take that and go with it.
Yeah, I agree. Quab, I never got your opinion on Obi on air, at least. I did a whole video without you. And then we're talking about him just in the corner. What do you think about Tibbs and Obi, both of them?
Oh, starting with Tibbs, regardless of how anyone feels about Tibbs, like, in a negative manner, we all have our critiques when it comes to coaches, but Tibbs gets his teams to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not a lot of coaches can say that. There are coaches who have been in the league for many years and haven't sniffed the playoffs. Tibbs gets his team to the playoffs. It always happens. Every squad he's coached, they get to the playoffs. So again, like you said, Josh, and you too, Angel, like there are situations where like you're like he could do this better, he could do that better, but the Knicks always compete hard. You guys just made it to the second round. It's a steady improvement every year, as you guys have seen. So like I think next year is also going to be another big step. With Obi, I just felt like he wasn't a good fit for the team when it comes down to it. As a role player, like he might be a better fit for the Pacers because he's just gonna be there just to run. Like you guys were saying, he leaks out, so he's gonna get some more easy points. So that might be in favor for them. That works out better for them. With the Knicks, when you're playing with your two best players, need the ball in the half court to operate. He either needs to be a really good spot up shooter and needs to be in the right spots all the time. And like you said, it wasn't necessarily the case in most cases. So. I'm good for him being on the Pacers. It might be a better fit for him, but he just wasn't a good fit as a role player on the Knicks.
All right, that's going to close out our NBA Twitter segment. Let's move on to just exploring the Knicks offseason and the possibilities in the 2023-2024 season. On top of what we top and moving from the Knicks to the Pacers, the Knicks acquired Dante DiVincenzo. He's someone who right now it seems like he's going to be the backup guard, I guess, point guard, shooting guard, whatever the Knicks need at the time. He's someone who's won a championship. He's a veteran. He's played with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson in college. Ariel, what do you think of this move?
If you guys look at my old tweets, I was big on the off season saying we got to get Dante in. And people don't realize too, they flirted with getting even Dante when he was with Milwaukee, the Knicks.
Yeah.
They had their eyes on Dante for a very long time. They just couldn't make a deal that worked. And it just all makes sense. Like you bring in Josh Hart, you bring in Jalen Brunson. You got to bring in a guy like Dante DiVincenzo. This guy is a high school champion, a two-time high school champion, Mr. Maine basketball. This guy is a winner at the college level. I mean, he was probably one of the best players on that Villanova team, if you ask me, especially on those title teams with Villanova. And at the NBA level, he played behind Drew Holiday, wasn't another title team. Unfortunately, in the playoffs, he got hurt when he was a major contributor on that team coming off the bench. And obviously played major minutes with Golden State, with Steph and Clay, and basically was a lights out 3-point shooter. He's probably one of the best catching three-point shooters in the league. And he's a high energy guy, a high IQ. A lot of people don't realize too he has a knack for getting in the passing lane. He basically does everything that Tibbs loves. He plays defense, he rebounds, and he gets in the lane. So I think there's nothing wrong with bringing in a guy like that.
How do you feel about the? I think it just got announced today, actually, as we were recording, the Josh Hart extension.
I'm okay with it because, like I said, man, you got to take care of your guys. I think this team, another year with chemistry under the belt, you bring it in high. And thing is, like, what I love about what the Knicks are doing, they're bringing in a lot of high-energy guys, a lot of high basketball IQ guys, and players that already have chemistry with each other. So you don't have to worry about bringing a new guy in and worrying about, okay, are they going to fit? Are they going to work well together? You talk about Hart, Brunson, and Dante. They all have that chemistry already. So another year under their belt with Julius, RJ, and this whole team together, I just think it's just going to be a messy work. I think the contract was fair. That's where I had the ballpark range at. I'm okay with it. I know there's going to be some people that are going to be, oh, we overpaid for him. Listen, if we didn't pay it, if we didn't give it to him, there will be another contender that will love a Josh Hart.
Right.
And I'm happy he's here.
Yeah, and he changed our season last year. I mean, undoubtedly made us a better team immediately.
Way better.
I don't understand the small fraction of Knicks. Knicks Twitter is just another. They're just.
It's a weird place. They complain about anything, man. I call you company, man. If you even talk positive, anything positive about the Knicks.
Yeah, they call you company, man. If you're a Knicks fan. Now, we're gonna get critical here, Knicks fans. So be happy. So, what would you change about the Knicks offense? We mentioned how it is stale. You know, we have conceded that point that hey, like Tibbs isn't perfect. What would you change about the offense?
I would run more sets, man, for Grimes and RJ. I think I got Quentin Grimes taking a leap this year. I think they should put him more focus on him offensively because I've seen him. My prime example, I always say that Dallas game where he was taking to me, he's one of the best finishers at the rim. There's a lot of times that he won't. I don't know if he's instructed to do it, but where he gets by his guy. And he ends up, swinging the ball out or kicking it out for a three. Yeah, I would love him to just take it a little bit more aggressively because he can finish at the paint. He's one of the team's elite cutters. I would run more sets for him and RJ, honestly. Open up his offense a little more.
Get Quentin Grimes out of the corner. Like I always say it in the show, he's in timeout. Like Tibbs puts him in timeout for a reason I just cannot explain. And Quentin Grimes, like, you can tell he has handle. You can tell he can play make. And a lot of times, like, he'll get a rebound and immediately, like, he's looking for Brunson or Julius to give the ball up. And it's like, no, take it yourself, man. Go. Like you said, I don't know if he's under instruction to do that or what, but I would like to see Quentin Grimes with a bigger role in the offense. You mentioned RJ Barrett, having sets for him as well, getting him downhill more often. I don't necessarily think putting him in isolation is the best thing to do, but maybe having him in a pick and roll as the ball handler more often. They do it every once in a while. What is, like, the ceiling for RJ here with Julius? Because a lot of people seem to think that they can't coexist at the same time. What do you think?
I think they can, man. I think I've been against that saying. I understand where it comes from because their skill sets or whatever. But I've seen a lot of times where RJ, and even like this, and Tid did it last year when he ran them with the second unit. I think that was actually a good thing too. Have RJ run with the second unit, mixing it up a little bit, because obviously that's going to open up his game more. And like you said, man, just have him out there more in transition. Because when RJ gets downhill and puts his head down, we've seen what he can do. I mean, when he posterized Scotty Barnes in that Toronto game, that's when I said that's the more the RJ I want to see run, just like that.
Yeah.
Regarding the offense, how would you feel more about Julius Randle, the facilitator? Because I feel like anytime I watch the Knicks, you guys look amazing when me and Josh joke about it. We call it Point Julius when he's attacking the paint and like spreading the ball around to all the shooters, and it kind of makes it easier for him to get his 20-point games where he doesn't have to be attacking like double or triple teams. So how do you feel about Julius Randle, the facilitator?
I like the point forward Anthony Mason role for Julius. I think I've seen it. You guys have obviously seen it too. He's more effective that way. Getting the teammates involved. And I think some Knicks Twitter is a little bit critical of it because I've seen a lot of times where he is doing that, and he is because that's one thing he did better than he did last year, passing out of the double teams. Because last year I felt like he held the ball too long, but this year a lot of times that it was our floor spacing issues created a logjam because we weren't hitting open shots, and he gets a lot of hockey assists too. Also, that a lot of people don't give him credit for, where off the doubles he hits the guys, and then obviously the swing man. And it gets open three. But I think once at the addition of, like I said, with Dante, it comes back to that. And obviously Quentin Grimes takes a leap, starts knocking down his threes more consistently. You see the assist numbers go up, and you see that point forward Julius, actually being used a little bit more and being more vocal with it.
Yeah, and to me, that's when the Knicks are at their best, when Julius is getting to the rim or getting into the paint and distributing or finishing strong. I love Julius, but these step-back threes and this isolation and this jab step, when he falls in love with his jump shot, that's when the Knicks offense gets stale, and that's when I think they get into trouble. Another player I wanted to ask you about is Immanuel Quickley. He's coming up on a contract year. He's right now the sixth man for the Knicks. What do you think the future is with Quick? Is he going to be the sixth man forever? Do they sign him to an extension? What does that extension look like? How do you see that happening?
I see it. It could go one of two ways. It could go where he might want a bigger role and want to be the star. He feels like he's a starting caliber point guard. And I've always said it before. I love all these kids. I love everybody on this team. But it's the same thing with Obi. If you ultimately don't want to be a part of it and don't want to stick to your role and feel like you're better or above the team, then we need to put you in a place where you feel like where you need to be and what you are. But if he wants to stick with us and stick with what we have going on and stick to his six-man role, and even if he wants to, in some situation, if he wants to have him at the two, because I think, honestly, to me, I think he's better suited playing a two guard. I don't see Quickley as this point guard a lot of people think he is. I know some numbers, when he did start, it was effective, with him, with the assist numbers and, like everything he did. But there's a lot of instances, too, where I feel like that's why they brought in a DiVincenzo, because now you got another ball handler that can let Quickley slide off ball, where I think he's better suited and more dangerous in, and lets him play his game a little bit more to where he's suited. And I feel like Dante can do that because Quickley can bring the ball up, but I think actually running an offense, I think DiVincenzo has him on that with the playmaking aspect. So I feel like them two can play off each other. And I really want to see what they look like during the season playing with each other. I think it's going to be good. And the contract situation, I would give him what he wants to be if he's all bought in to what we're trying to do. And with his role at the moment, pay him what he wants, take care of your rookies, and keep building them. That's how I feel about it.
Is there, switching topics real quick, is there a move out there you guys feel like would get you guys over the top? Because you still have the Fournier contract or player on your team, and he clearly says he doesn't want to come back. And you also have a bunch of random draft picks, I guess, with protections on it. Yeah, a bunch. So you guys have a bunch of. I think I was looking at it the other day. You guys have a bunch of protected draft picks. So is there a move you envision that could maybe get you guys right over the top to be Eastern Conference Finals, possibly out of the Eastern Conference to the Finals? Is there a move out there you think is out there?
As far as a move that's gonna not gut your roster, I don't see it, because I think the OG sweepstakes are too high, especially for a player. I'm not saying he's a really good player, and I think he would definitely add value to the Knicks team. But ultimately, there's no move right now at the moment that's not going to be worth cutting the roster. I think if you do make moves, you obviously try to get off the Evan Fournier situation, put him in a place where he's happy, and then maybe if you just get a pick or a rotational player, whatever the case may be, or even another shooter, because I feel like like I said, our spacing issues were an issue in the playoffs, especially. Yeah. Add a guy that is a good shooter, consistent shooter. I think you can make those moves at the deadline, whether you move from Fournier or Evan, or maybe another trade down the line at the deadline. But I think it's going to be small incremental moves. I've never been with the we need to trade and gut our roster for another star, because I feel like we could take the Detroit Pistons route, where we just add guys that, okay, you have a starter here, but you have a guy that could come in and fill in those minutes while that star needs rest. And you just got guys that could sit there and balance each other out. And I feel like that's the route that we could take, because people get it twisted that, you just have to only draft your talent and that's it. And then you get a couple, and then it doesn't have to work that way. We got a mixture of talent, smart trades, smart free agent signings, and you can luck into a superstar. I feel like we lucked into Jalen Brunson, and that's a starting point right there. And then we got another Julius Randle. And then ultimately it depends on the development of Grimes and Barrett. That's going to take us to the next level within the team.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't trade the farm for Joel Embiid. That's what you're saying.
Nope. Never been with it. You know that.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that, man. I know that. I mean, I understand why Knicks fans would want that, because the thought of, like, if we just had that one MVP caliber superstar, when we had the big three, that's going to take us over the top. But I do think a lot of Knicks fans don't realize that you need some depth, right? Look at the Phoenix Suns. Look what happened to the Suns this year. They had Booker and Kevin Durant, and what happened? They got bounced in 6 games to the Nuggets. So there is a balance to these things, and I'm not ready to give up on RJ. I'm not ready to give up on Grimes, especially for I love Embiid, but someone who's very injury-prone, especially during a time where it matters most. Final question, what are fair expectations for this team? They mid-40s last year, second round. I think it surprised a lot of people. But now there are some people who, and this is weird, like, not even considering the Knicks a top 10 team in the league. I'm on these Twitter posts, and, like, no one's even saying the Knicks, like, have a chance to win the East or be competitors in the East. What do you think is realistic? Do you think it's more of like that, or do you think, like, this team is a contender for the East for sure?
Honestly, I said this on a couple of talk show radio shows, and I'm going to say it again. I got this team winning 54 games. I got them being a 3rd seed. And I feel like, just like how you said the last year where we were in the mid-40s, I feel like if Julius doesn't go down, we would have reached that plateau. A lot of people forget about that. I got us being a 3rd seed, 54 wins. I think they're going to take the next step. Another year, chemistry under their belt as a team is only going to help us with the addition of more of a better bench piece that we have now in Dante. I got this team exceeding a lot of expectations that some Knicks fans really don't see right now, and I'm going to stick to that.
If they fall short, do you think Tibbs is on the hot seat?
I don't think necessarily, because it's not really it's not a make or break year. I don't think it's if we fall. I don't see it happening. But as far as, like, the question goes, I don't think he would be on the hot seat. I do think eventually, because you can see him and Johnny Bryant got something really good going on. Johnny Bryant's in his ear, influencing him a lot. And I love Johnny Bryant. I've been vouching for Johnny for a long time. I think eventually at some point the torch will be passed to him. But I think I wouldn't put him on the hot seat just yet. I think maybe another year. Because he has like one more year left, right? After this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll finish out the contract.
Got you. All right, Ariel DeJesus, thank you for joining Knicks season preview 2023-2024. Man, I hope it's going to be a great year. I'm sure that you and I are going to be interacting a lot on Twitter, maybe on Spaces. Who knows? I don't know if I'll hop in there, but I haven't been in Spaces in a long time.
I stay away from them sometimes.
Yeah,
Toxic.
I can't do it. Let everybody know where they can find you, your content, and all that good stuff.
Okay, you can find me on YouTube, Ariel's Demyoung. It's on YouTube, Go School Retro NBA. It's on Spotify. I just put it on Apple as well. And you can find me on there. I got Isaiah Ryder tribute coming out tomorrow. So, guys, stay tuned for that. I'm doing a lot of Running Rebels content because that was another team I used to like back in the day, UNLV. And I got another Dead Left Strength and Mark Price later on in the week dropping. So, stay tuned for that.
Shooters. Let's go.
Shooters. Underrated shooters. Mark Price.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that. And like I said, man, it's trying to bridge the gap between the young and the older generation. So just stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of things coming out, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks for joining the show. If you want to follow The Dime, you can on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at The Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. He's Quab at Quab AKS. We will see you later for another episode of The Dime.